As the All-Star game concluded, what lingered wasn't just the final score, but the message worn proudly across the players' chests. The call for fair pay has moved beyond locker rooms and highlight reels. It's now part of a broader conversation about how women's sports are valued, how labor is respected, and how professional leagues must evolve alongside their growing audiences.
Shot clock under 10. Step back three. Clark. No.
But thank God she can do other things.
What a pass. Just the velocity.
That's pretty good, huh?
Oh, my goodness.
This was a game where everything went wrong at first, but in the last minute, everything went right.
Clark has space. She's going to let it fly, and she's going to connect.
Oh, Caitlin Clark.
The WNBA players didn't just demand more. They asked to be recognized as equal stakeholders in the success they helped build. This moment signals a shift in expectations. With rising viewership, expanding teams, and new revenue opportunities on the horizon, the league is in a position to reimagine its structure, and that includes how it treats its players. Whether or not the league responds with concrete changes remains to be seen. But one thing is clear, the athletes have set the tone for what comes next, not with anger, but with clarity, unity, and purpose. During the 2025 WNBA All-Star Game held on July 19th in Indianapolis, players made headlines with a bold and unified statement. Over 40 All-Star athletes took to the court wearing black warm-up shirts that read, "Pay us what you owe us." This public display wasn't just symbolic, it was a direct response to the ongoing and increasingly tense collective bargaining agreement, CBA negotiations between the WNBA and its players' union. The protest came just 2 days after league, and union officials met behind closed doors for a critical bargaining session that players later described as disrespectful and dismissive of their concerns. The All-Star Game crowd responded with loud cheers and chants of, "Pay them, pay them," when WNBA Commissioner Kathy Engelbert appeared during the event. The players' coordinated action was spearheaded by Nneka Ogwumike, president of the Women's National Basketball Players Association, WNBA, who has been at the forefront of labor talks. She and other players expressed serious doubts about the league's proposals, hinting at the possibility of a future strike or lockout if meaningful progress isn't made. The timing of the protest, on one of the WNBA's biggest annual stages, was no coincidence. The message was clear. The players are no longer willing to be silent or sidelined in negotiations that directly affect their livelihoods. This public demand for fair compensation has ignited widespread media attention and social discussion, marking a new chapter in the WNBA's labor movement, one driven by both facts and frustration. The visibility of this protest, combined with the growing popularity of the league, has put the pressure squarely on the WNBA leadership to deliver a more equitable deal. The WNBA players' powerful All-Star protest sparked an intense wave of public debate and online controversy. On one side, fans and supporters applauded the women for standing up for their worth, demanding fair compensation and respect. But critics quickly pushed back, flooding social media with comments questioning whether the players actually deserve more pay. Detractors argued that the WNBA still operates at a financial loss, heavily subsidized by the NBA, and doesn't generate enough revenue to support higher salaries. Memes and viral posts labeled the players' demands as entitled, with some users going as far as saying the league would collapse overnight without NBA support. Sports forums like Reddit were filled with heated arguments, exposing a deeper societal divide on how women's sports and women's labor are valued. However, supporters of the players countered these claims with hard facts and growing metrics. They pointed out that the WNBA is in the midst of a financial boom. A $2.2 billion media rights deal is currently under negotiation. New expansion teams are paying up to $250 million in fees, and both TV ratings, plus 23%, and in-arena attendance, plus 26%, have seen significant increases in 2025. To many, this signals a league on the rise, not one teetering on financial failure. Advocates argue that the players aren't asking for NBA-level salaries, but rather a fairer share of the revenue they help generate. Right now, WNBA players reportedly receive around 9–10% of league revenue, compared to the 50% share NBA players get. This huge gap, combined with the league's improved financial outlook, has fueled calls for change, and turned what could have been a quiet labor negotiation into a national conversation on fair pay, gender equity, and respect for professional women athletes. The central issue that WNBA players are raising isn't about matching NBA-level salaries. It's about receiving a fair share of the revenue they help generate. The players are demanding a more balanced revenue-sharing model that reflects their role in growing the league's popularity and financial success. Currently, WNBA players receive only about 9–10% of league revenue, compared to the 50% that NBA players earn. That's a massive gap, and players argue that it reinforces the perception that women's sports are inherently less valuable. Even as the league hits record numbers in media deals, sponsorships, and viewership, they want the league to acknowledge that they are business partners, not just employees, and that their labor and image deserve proper compensation. A perfect example of the disparity can be seen in the All-Star bonuses. Each player selected for the WNBA All-Star Game received a $2,575 bonus, while the game's MVP earned just $5,150. For comparison, sponsors like Aflac offered $60,000 for the three-point contest winner and $55,000 for the skills challenge winner, prize money that came entirely from outside the league. This highlights a frustrating contradiction. External brands are willing to invest, but the league's internal compensation remains stagnant. Players see this not only as a financial issue, but a matter of dignity and acknowledgement. If the league wants to market these athletes as stars and grow its audience around them, then it must treat them as such, through real, measurable compensation. The WNBA players' pay protest has reverberated well beyond the basketball court, drawing attention from public figures, celebrities, and politicians alike. One of the most notable endorsements came from former U.S. Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, who voiced her support on Instagram, saying, "Everyone watches women's sports. Players should be paid what they're owed." Her message added a powerful political dimension to the conversation, signaling that the issue of fair pay for women athletes isn't just a sports matter, it's a social justice issue. Clinton's post went viral, reflecting how the WNBA's fight is tapping into broader movements around gender equality, labor rights, and visibility for women in male-dominated industries. The media response, however, has been divided. On platforms like ESPN, Fox Sports, and talk shows, analysts and pundits were split. Some praised the players for their courage and professionalism in using their biggest stage to demand change, while others questioned their timing or accused them of making unrealistic demands. This divide mirrors the larger cultural split. One side applauds the WNBA players for standing up for themselves and pushing the league toward progress. The other dismisses their protest as performative or economically unjustified. Still, by taking a unified and public stand, WNBA athletes have forced the conversation into mainstream discourse, prompting fans, media, and even league sponsors to reckon with the uncomfortable question, if women's sports are growing, why aren't the women being paid fairly? The 2025 WNBA All-Star Game will be remembered not just for dazzling dunks and highlight reels, but for a historic moment of unity, courage, and confrontation. By standing together in protest and declaring, "Pay us what you owe us," WNBA players turned a basketball court into a stage for social and economic justice. They reminded the world that athletes are not just performers, but professionals, individuals who deserve respect, recognition, and a fair share of the wealth they help create. This protest is not just a plea for money, it's a demand for equity. It's a challenge to outdated systems that have long undervalued women's work, even in billion-dollar industries like sports. It's a rallying cry for future generations of girls who dream of making it big, not just in fame, but in financial security. These women are laying the groundwork for a league that doesn't just survive, it thrives, with its athletes standing shoulder to shoulder with the biggest names in global sports. The controversy that followed may have divided public opinion, but it also ignited a necessary conversation. It pushed the media, fans, and league executives to reevaluate long-standing assumptions. It forced many to finally ask, what is a player really worth? And perhaps more importantly, who gets to decide that worth? As the WNBA prepares for a future filled with growth, investment, and attention, it now faces a pivotal choice: evolve with its players or risk leaving them behind. Because this moment isn't just about compensation, it's about vision, legacy, and the kind of league that WNBA wants to become. The scoreboard may have stopped ticking at the All-Star game, but the real game, the fight for fairness, is just getting started.